So there's a lot to doing practices in terms of how the brain develops, how your body develops, how your channels develop. I'm starting to see the things as I'm talking, which is not always possible. Sometimes you say the chants and then you visualize what you're supposed to visualize later. You try to get the visualization in your mind. You try to sustain it. It's like building a muscle. It's like and sometimes you have authorization for one practice um, in which you have the knowledge and things like that, and then you have social requirements to do another practice. It is possible to continue with the practice that you have authorization for, no matter what's coming out of your mouth. It doesn't, not entirely, you can negate that, but there are also variations where you look at the variations, and this stuff develops over time as you build salience. A lot of people do recitation of Tara every day. I do a recitation of Kshitigarbha. Kshitigarbha is all the Buddhas, just like Tara is all the Buddhas. And you can say that all the Buddhas are all the Buddhas, but some of them are more conducive, like Tara or Kshitigarbha, and you have to choose one or the other. You wouldn't do both. So I have Tara all over the house, pictures of Tara, because she's also part of the willow leaf mandala that is in the blue books that was described, and that several of the sadhanas associated, because it's and I'm probably not going to say this in the right, well, I can say this in the right order. So it is Amitabha, Green Tara, Benzrapani, Yellow Chambala, and Golden Red Manjushri. And so when I'm doing the Manjushri mantra, I started to think about that, and it worked. It just immediately. I've been struggling with all sorts of different visualizations, and this time it just came right up, and it came up, and I was visualizing it easily. I'm starting to see the gold letters when I'm saying my mantras, but not consistently. I'll visualize it for a while, and then I'll do the rest of the recitation and think about, my mind will drift and stuff like that. So focusing. Do you remember learning to read? Do you remember that you had to teach yourself to focus on the page? It is this same thing, except that you're older now, your brain is different, you have more worries. A child can do this single-minded focus because they don't have to worry about when the light bills due. They're not, a child, remember when you used to forget things all the time and nobody cared? It was just kind of funny because you're a kid and you forget, and they were just like, blah, blah, blah. Oh, whatever, this stupid kid forgot, but if you forget now, you might get evicted, right? So it's no longer just like dumb shit stuff. I don't know, will this post? Anyway, so the thing is that you get things like this. Some of this stuff is like out there in the open, out there available. You learn how to do a sadhana. It'll probably work pretty good for just about anybody. Other things, you need to go through more of a rigmarole, to get through it. Have more relationships to do it, and sometimes there's conditional permissions and things like that. But it builds over time. That feeling that you have by a strong guru like mine, in which they can stabilize you and stuff like that, you're not going to get that all the time. And you just, because there's physical aspects to this, physically learning to sit, when I first came back to doing these mantras, I actually had pain in my diaphragm from talking for chanting for so long. Have you had that experience yet? So gradually, and then, sometimes you're really enthusiastic and you want to belt it out, and other times you're just mumbling, and learning to modulate that kind of thing, because most of the time it's probably better to just mumble, and unless you can throat sing, and then they want you to belt it out. But sometimes you don't always have that energy. Some days you're sitting there and you just had, yesterday morning I had a dream that my stepdad and a bunch of his cronies would come over here and tell me that, you really don't need to do all of these things. Well, I have to do a morning guru yoga and a morning mo and all of that sort of stuff, and the visualizations that go with that. And then I have to do the Gana Puja in the evening. And then we decided that I'm not going to read on the weekends because we need to have the tree rings of the 7-day week. So I'll do reading, and I'll do belly dancing training, during the week. And then I just do the other 2 practices and the belly dancing in the evening after supper on weekends. And on the weekends I might watch, a 1-hour documentary on Bhutan instead of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, because that's pretty much how it comes across. And I realized I'd been to all those places. I don't know exactly what year. Maybe it was even before emancipation. Couldn't have been before emancipation. It wouldn't have been before emancipation. It would have been probably after 74. Probably between 74 and 76, and then I don't know what we did in 1980. But we got to this bridge, and I wanted to say, oh, those people are kind of like Nazis over there, but they're not. They're like robots. And that's the thing that I got to worry about. You got to be specific with your speech. Anyway, like doing, if you have ever done dance, the moves of ballet look very simple, and if you have good vision to motor, which I don't, but I have to do physical to motor, and it's just really easy to imitate what they're doing. But to make it look as though they do it, you have to do 1 or more hours of training every single day. And they might go out on stage and their bit is 3 minutes. But to make it look like it looks, they have to train for 1 or more hours a day. And sometimes do intensive, 6-hour trainings for several weeks every year. So it matters what they do when they're not training. It matters what they eat. It matters how they comport themselves in other things in order to have the right bearing on the stage. And yet, I was able to do, a campy production of The Black Swan, and I was actually, understudy for somebody who the understudy had to perform The Black Swan, and carried it off, despite so much in my life. So there are essentials in these things, and I think that's what brings people to these traditions. They want to look at the essentials of body behavior. As I've just in the past month or so that I've been working on my belly dance again, my body shape has changed, my comportment has changed, and this is bringing people out of the woodwork, because I live in a neighborhood where if you look like a dancer, they assume that you're working, and they want to know for who and for what. And I'll tell you straight up, I'm doing these things for the support of my family.